why yesterday's tragic shooting out here occurred. Investigators out here continue to look for answers.
And I'm John Allison. A disturbing revelation today. The gunman in this attack bought his weapon right here in Spokane.
And we'll talk to a former military psychologist who says more should have been done to keep a troubled young man from turning into a killer. Those stories coming up next on News 4 at 5. The nightmare is just beginning for survivors of yesterday's mass shooting at Fairchild Hospital.
I saw the muzzle of the gun and saw the first discharge round.
Today, investigators try to find out why 20-year-old Dean Melberg gunned down 24 people in a rampage at Fairchild.
From KXLY News, this is the Emmy Award-winning News 4 at 5.
Victims, their families, and our community remain in a state of shock today, trying to understand why a crazed gunman would open fire on more than 24 innocent people. Rob Doherty is live at the scene of yesterday's shooting rampage. Rob, how are our neighbors at Fairchild coping with all this afternoon?
Well, I think it'd be pretty safe to say, Karen, that most of the folks here are still pretty much in shock. The media attention here has been enormous. It has received, indeed, worldwide attention, and you can, in fact, see all the media behind me right now. Many of these are reporters from Seattle and Portland and other reporters from throughout the Northwest who are here covering this story. Of course, ABC was here as well, so it's getting a lot of attention. And a lot of people driving by here that live in the base are very aware that they are the focus of attention right now. Now, coming up during this show, during News 4 at 5, we're going to bring you the latest on the conditions of those who are hospitalized right now after yesterday's shooting, and we are also going to share with you the names of those who died during that violence. Now, News 4 is also going to bring you more details of the horror inside Fairchild Hospital yesterday, and we're going to find out also more about Dean Melberg, the troubled man who is blamed for the worst mass shooting in Spokane history. Now, the latest as to what is going on here right now is that a press conference just broke up a short time ago here with Colonel Brooks, the commander at the base out here. And right now, one of our reporters, along with several other reporters, has gone inside, past the barricades here, and is going into the hospital annex area where yesterday's shooting occurred. And that is Cindy Couris, and she's going to be out here shortly, we hope, and she'll be able to tell us exactly what has transpired there. Now, this is, of course, a tough job for investigators. They have their work cut out for them as far as looking at every aspect of this case. Exactly why did Dean Melberg do this? And John Allison has been covering this story since the beginning, and let's go to him now. John?
Well, Rob, those investigators today have spent most of their day literally digging bullets out of things like walls and doors and maybe even vehicles that were parked at the Fairchild Hospital yesterday. But no matter how hard they look today, they cannot possibly find all the answers, apparently, to that very disturbing question of why. Why did this happen here and now? There are more clues today, however, about what might have happened, and a clearer picture about those very few terrible moments yesterday. They were military, civilians, men, women, and children, and they had no warning. First, Dean Melberg shot 2 doctors who'd earlier evaluated his mental health. Then his rampage lost all focus.
And from there, went down the first floor hallway in the annex building, opening each door and firing into the offices, with the exception of one on the end, which was occupied.
Melberg raced into other corridors, then a cafeteria where there were children. He continued to fire. In a parking lot, he chased a man. Then he shot a woman to death, just as the base security guard arrived on his bicycle. After a confrontation, one report says the guard shot Melberg between the eyes. Speculation continues today about Melberg's possible quest for revenge, but he apparently left no specific explanation for his carnage.
We have not found yet any papers, notes, letters that would point to a specific motive.
And that's Under Sheriff John Goldman of Spokane County. As we mentioned a few moments ago, this is a very close-knit community here at Fairchild Air Force Base, and many people around here today have been trying to resume their normal life, but of course that's impossible at this juncture. We heard some very emotional stories throughout the day. There was one gentleman traveling around the base, and he was relaying the story of being at the hospital yesterday and one of the doctors dying in his arms. Those are the kinds of things that people here will never ever forget. And there are, as we heard at this news conference a short time ago, a large team of psychologists and others here, professionals, who are interviewing members of the base, trying to talk to them about what's happened, to try to begin this process. But there will be grieving, there will be disbelief, and there will be torment, Rob, for a long time to come, long after all the rest of us have gone home.
All right, John, thank you. And as we mentioned, Colonel Brooks was out here just a short time ago, and he had one of many press conferences that were held out here at the base today. And one of the things that he mentioned was that one of the things that he had not really focused on yet, or any of the other authorities out here, because of just getting all the details of this case out yet, is what a great loss this is, not only for the community of Spokane, but also for Fairchild Air Force Base. They lost some airmen in this. We lost some civilians in this. And he said that the community of Spokane and Fairchild Air Force Base should not forget what a great loss this really was.
I also need to tell you that we have had an outpouring of help from across this country and from all of the services, from the entire team of the Reserve and the Guard, the Air Force, the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and everyone, as far as the capabilities to send people out here to help us at Fairchild. And from our support agencies in the civilian world, have had an outpouring of volunteerism to help us.
And Karen, as we said, the latest right now is that Cindy Coors is inside, past the barricades here. She has gone into, we believe, the hospital annex out here at Fairchild, and she is going to be coming back, we hope, shortly. And as soon as she does, we'll get back to you on that. Karen?
Okay, we will join you again then, Rob. Now, Fairchild is bringing in public information officers from 3 other bases to help deal with this current crisis. Now, the names of the 4 people killed in the shootings have been released. They are 31-year-old Major Thomas Brigham, a psychiatrist at Fairchild Hospital, 40-year-old psychologist Captain Alan London, 8-year-old Christine McCarran of Spokane, and Anita Linder. Her age at this point is unknown. Some of the survivors were treated right at Fairchild Hospital, while others were taken to hospitals around Spokane. We will have their conditions and bring you an update on them as soon as that becomes available from one of the local hospitals. Now, of course, another thing that we learned today was that there is and has been a tremendous outpouring of support from the community. It was very visible at the Inland Northwest Blood Center. The waiting room there was packed all day. Blood Center officials say they haven't seen this kind of turnout since the Gulf War. More than 250 people crowded the center, waiting up to 2 hours to help out their fellow comrades, friends, and neighbors. Many of them said that it was a tragedy that they felt even happened to them, and that if they could give at least 1 pint of blood, that they would have felt that they could have done something to help their fellow people who were hurt at Fairchild. Now, this is what the Inland Blood Center needs. In particular, it needs type O positive and type O negative. Though there was a tremendous donation today, they still need more donations. The center is open from 9 to 6 if you would like to donate. It is at 507 Washington Street. Blood Center officials say there has also been a huge show of support from local businesses. Area grocery stores and restaurants have been donating food for those coming in to give blood. It appears now that Dean Melberg was a troubled man set on revenge. Authorities believe the 20-year-old planned to kill the Fairchild doctor who found him unfit to serve in the military. In the end, Melberg hit dozens of random victims. Melberg's military ID was found on his body. His hometown is Lansing, Michigan. Acquaintances there were shocked to hear of his rampage. He was known in Lansing, Michigan to be a quiet guy who didn't have many friends. Well, apparently his school classmates told reporters in Lansing, Michigan earlier today that he was teased in school, that he was apart, but this one classmate in particular said he took the time to get to know him and that he said he was a nice guy, that he liked him a lot. But we were told by teachers as well that he did stand out. Now, Dean Melberg's Air Force career began right after his graduation from high school in 1992. His training and service took him from Texas to Colorado and then to Fairchild in 1993. Melberg was reassigned to Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico in March of this year. He was involuntarily discharged on May 23rd for what military records describe as a personality disorder. At a news conference late this afternoon, the WIG commander said Melberg did not get along with a roommate, and that is what led to the initial psychological evaluation. Now, authorities today gave us our first glimpse of the semi-automatic weapon Dean Melberg used in his killing spree. The gun is called a MAC-90, and it is very similar to an AK-47. You've probably heard a lot about the AK-47. It has been used in other shooting rampages in past years and is one of several assault weapons Congress is currently considering banning. One of the big questions today is, how did Melberg get a hold of the rifle? Jeff Ray has been looking into this side of the story, and he joins us now from the newsroom with more on what he's learned. Jeff?
Karen, this is a MAC-90 similar to the one used in yesterday's shooting rampage. It's manufactured in the Republic of China by the Norinco Company. Now, this weapon is equipped with a 30-round clip. And one of the things investigators have been trying to figure out today is how Melberg got a hold of this 75-round drum-style magazine he allegedly used in the shooting spree. This afternoon, I spoke with the dealer who sold the rifle to Melberg last Wednesday. Mike Carroll says the suspect wanted to buy a 30-round magazine, but Carroll says he refused to sell him one. Carroll says Melberg appeared to be a very nice guy when he bought the gun. Quoting Carroll now, he said he wanted to use it for target plinking. Unfortunately, the targets were human beings, and I was very upset when I heard that. A Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms agent says it appears Melberg's purchase of the MAC-90 was legal. There are no federal or state waiting periods for buying this type of rifle. But Spokane County Undersheriff John Goldman says this incident raises questions about whether or not they should be legal.
That weapon, as it was used yesterday, I think you have to question the legitimate purpose of that being used by or accessible to virtually uncontrolled segments of our population.
Now, Karen, it appears that Mr. Melberg went to a retail store somewhere in the Spokane area recently to learn how to use his weapon, and investigators are still trying to figure out where he may have purchased the weapon and this drum-style magazine. Karen?
Okay, Jeff Ray reporting to us on the latest that we know about the weapon used in this shooting rampage. Now, could yesterday's shooting spree heat up the fight over a national assault weapon ban? Up next, Speaker Tom Foley and others express outrage and call for action.